سعيد وامنح الناس حبك بيض الله قلبك بيض الله قلبك كن سموحا لخصمك تلقى خصمك أحبك بيض الله قلبك بيض الله قلبك واحتفل بالمودة إنما
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and good evening. Welcome to the Sulaimaan Ravat show. We are coming to you live once again this Friday evening from our studios here in Sunning Hill, Johannesburg, channel 347 on the DSTV platform. Right, so those listening to us or watching us this evening rather from the Johannesburg region, the rain is coming down quite steadily. And they're talking about weather. They're talking about a rainstorm. So take it easy if you're going to be going out on the roads. And it's getting nippy. We're going into winter rather quickly. Anyway, here in the studio, it's warm and it's going to get hotter. I'm not going to give you a lengthy introduction. The program has been extensively advertised. You know what's in store this evening. We have representatives from the ANC, the DA, and the EFF, the top three. The major parties, political formations in the country, and we're going to be talking about their plan of action, their manifestos, their policies, their track record ahead of the upcoming elections next month here in South Africa. So I'm going to introduce my guest, and immediately to my right, we have the representative of the ANC, Mr. Jeff Makhubo. He is the ANC Joburg Regional Chairperson. Jeff, thank you so much for your time this evening. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Sulaimaan, and thanks for having me.
From the DA, we have DA MP Ghalib Kachali. Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam. Nice to be here.
And from the EFF, Nazir Paulson, also an MP. Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and to the viewers and listeners out there.
All right, viewers, what we're going to do, the first two rounds of questions, or the first two rounds really would be quick. We're going to ask our guests to tell us in 1 minute what is the one single most important reason that they feel South Africans should vote for their party. And then we'll ask them a quick question about their manifestos. Thereafter, we go into the meat of the discussion pertaining to key aspects, key talking points, key policy points ahead of this national election. So we'll start with the ANC, you're the ruling party, and you're also immediately to my right. In 1 minute, Jeff, tell us, what is the one most important reason, in your opinion, why South Africans should vote for the ANC?
Well, for us, there are several important reasons. But if you ask me to say why South Africans should vote for the African National Congress, we are a party with deep experience of the people's issues. We're a party with a deep experience of what it is to solve. We've taken South Africa from where it is as a basket case country to where it is now, from where it was to where it is now. So we think that we have a plan on the table that will grow South Africa, that will make sure that our people move from where they are now to a better place. If you look at the track record of housing, electrification, reticulation of water, access to healthcare, schooling improvement, and not only in the affluent areas, now in the very poor areas, rural development and its improvements, urban development, spatial integration, the laws that have transformed the country. So a lot has been done. And we think that we can build from the base that we've set as South Africa in the last 25 years, both locally and nationally, and we can take the country forward.
All right. Ghalib, same question. In 1 minute, tell us what is the single most important reason, in your opinion, as to why South Africans should vote DA?
A couple of seconds of background in that we, as the DA, believe in an open society for all, not a closed crony society for some. So our policies are broadly centrist. Yes, we believe there's a role for the state, but a state should not overreach itself, a state with limited capacity. You need to spend on certain crucial areas from a state point of view, but the state cannot overreach itself. The economy must grow. We're in recession. We're in dire straits. We are running out of money. We are on the verge, and let nobody tell you otherwise, almost of bankruptcy in this country. Our debt to GDP ratio is criminally awful. We need to address this. The only way to address this is with sound economic policies. And the sound economic policies are the policies that the DA has and has driven home. You can look at the Western Cape. The answers lie there.
All right. Nazir, the one most important reason, in your opinion, why South Africans should vote EFF?
The most important reason why South Africans should be voting for the EFF, 25 years into democracy, Many South Africans have not felt any benefit of this democracy. It has been a crony system at both national level and throughout all the provinces, including the Western Cape. There's been no development for the poor. It is only the EFF that has focused its policies on the upliftment of the poor. And I think that today's and the past few days, the protest both in the Western Cape and in Alexandra is evidence that neither the ANC or the DA are capable of delivering on the expectations of the poor.
Right. Now, again, in a minute, I want to talk about manifestos, and I want to make an appeal to you guys on a lighter note. Next elections, whoever is in charge of writing those manifestos, tell them that they keep it a bit short, 170 odd pages, and then 70 odd pages, and another 70 odd pages. For us in the media, it's quite a bit of reading that you guys made us do. But anyway, when you look at your manifesto, which you launched in January, and obviously you've seen the manifestos now of the other parties, what would you say, Jeff, makes your manifesto different?
Well, I suppose we tell our story. We tell our 25-year story, and we say, where do we build from? We admit to our mistakes. We admit what is not being achieved. We know where we're going to. We know that we need to get to a country where we reach the ideals of the Freedom Charter. So our manifesto is very different because it tells our story. I think other manifestos, effectively, they're saying they're trying to counter what the ANC is doing. We had to launch first, they had to read, critique ours, and then come up with their plans. And in their manifesto launches, they mention the ANC, probably have, their leaders mention the ANC half the time rather than talking about their own issues. Yes, we've read their manifestos, we've analyzed it, and we don't think they've got a concrete plan. I mean, there are similarities that between us and some of the parties. However, the concrete plan is a plan to grow South Africa, decent job, social transformation, social cohesion, innovation, honest and transparent government, dealing away with uprooting corruption, of course, saying what do we correct from the past that has gone wrong.
Khalid, what makes the DA's manifesto different?
Jeff is right. We mention the ANC. We have to mention the ANC because for 25 years, the ANC has driven this country, if you plot a graph economically, backwards. Now, what we need to do is foster proper governance, legitimacy, and build our institutions. Those were the things that were eroded and have got us to where we were. So we have to foster economic growth, macroeconomic stability, and inclusion in the economy. These things are necessary. Sound public policy and certainty. Investors want certainty. Make it easy for people to come into this country and invest in this country. Make it easy for people to hire and yes, fire, because we need a flexible labor market. We support the national minimum wage, but on a sectoral basis. And we have exemption certificates for people, young people particularly, wish to avail themselves of those. Those are necessary things to do. It's about protecting workers and ordinary people, not elites. We want to stabilize GDP, as I've said. These are the things we'll touch on. These are important things. They are things that have failed in this economy thus far.
From the three parties represented here this evening, the EFF's manifesto is the longest. Tell us what's different about your manifesto.
The difference between us and all the other political parties is our manifesto is not designed in some boardroom where we decide what is best for the people of South Africa. The entire EFF leadership has gone out into communities to consult broadly. The Commander-in-Chief, the Deputy President, every single leader of the EFF has gone out into communities, consulted with them, had community meetings. We've had broad consultation with professionals from various sectors. The manifesto of the EFF is not just the work of the EFF. We've compiled it, yes, but we've had input from a broad spectrum of South African society. So what is contained in here is what South Africa wishes for. And yes, it does focus on the upliftment of the poor, but more than that, it has buy-in from the broad spectrum of professionals of South Africans. So it is not just an EFF document. It is a document owned by all of South Africa that has contributed to it. So unlike the boardroom manifestos of the ANC and the DA, ours is a people's manifesto. And these embody the wishes of the people of South Africa.
Khalid, I want to come back to you, talking about manifestos, right? And I want to quote an excerpt from the ANC's manifesto, and they say that there are few countries that would have succeeded in expanding vital services such as water, sanitation, electricity, roads, housing to as many people in such a short period of time as the ANC has. I know you're going to disagree with that, but tell us specifically why. The ANC is arguing in summary that, look, there's a lot that we have still to do. We've made mistakes, but in terms of what we have achieved, there are very few others who could have achieved so much in these key areas of service delivery in such a short space of time. Your response to that, Ghali?
We had a massive challenge in 1994, a huge backlog. There was a golden opportunity to get things right. We began to do things almost right to begin with. We lost our way very badly. Why did we lose our way? Because we started a society based on a party that said you can do things that become tenderpreneurs, take cuts, enrich yourselves as long as you give unto Caesar what's due to Caesar. That is the modus operandi. That is what's coming out in the Zondo Commission. That's what's clear to everybody in this country who's got half a brain. They can see through it. Now that is the problem. In addition to that, we've got policies. Policies which are unsound. Policies where the cloth doesn't match the coat you're cutting. We overspend massively. And why do we overspend? Because we are putting huge buffers in there for unscrupulous people to line their pockets. This is criminal, and it's got us to where we are. We can't continue like this. In 2023, we'll be bust if we continue like this. There'll be no money for the 17 million people whom we are on the poverty line.
In the 25 years of ANC rule, would you say there were any significant successes under the ANC's government?
Of course, a government, if you're in business for 25 years and you have to electrify, you have to roll various things out there and house people. If you don't do these things, you're going to have a revolution on your hands. So you've got to do certain things. And yes, there have been certain successes, but those successes have been shoddy. Those successes have been less than what was required. Take Africa, for example. Africa is growing at 3% right now. Countries like Rwanda, Ethiopia, Senegal are growing at 7%. We're languishing around about 1% or less.
Okay.
That's the reality, and that's what we have to change. And this is not new. This has been going on for a long, long time.
Jeff, if you look at the DA's manifesto, right, they talk a lot about their track record, and that obviously would revolve primarily around the Western Cape. There has been a message circulating on social media. I don't know if you've seen it, a letter from Peleka Mbete, the Speaker of Parliament, to Helen Zille, complimenting her on certain key achievements in the Western Cape when it comes to housing and other such matters. Ghali's got the letter.
That's right, yeah.
What's the ANC's perspective on the DA's track record in the Western Cape? It's a key issue because the DA showcases the Western Cape to the country and says, see, this province we have been running, this city we have been running, we can do a much better job than the ANC if you give us a chance nationally.
Yeah, before I answer that, I just wanted to say to my friend from the EFF that ours is a People's Manifesto. It's not a manifesto from the boardroom. We started the consultations long before they did. Okay. And then the numbers are there to see. Look, I just think that the D8 lashes on straws when they say, look at our track record in Cape Town. I took a particular interest in Cape Town because I was in the city of Johannesburg, and of course we had to look at what the Cape Town is doing. They had to look at what we are doing. And basically when we look at the spatial form of the Western Cape, especially the biggest, the metro, the Cape Metro, you can see that the inequality is stark. Yes, there are successes in terms of the money that has been put in by national government into the N2, the N2, the Joe Slovo housing developments and all that. But go to Nyanga, go to Langa, go to Guguletu, go to Khayelitsha, you'll see it's poverty, stark poverty. So development is skewed in the Western Cape. So what is their success? Of course, their success will say, look at Cape Town, we're doing better, but comparatively speaking, when you look at growth in Gauteng compared to growth in the Western Cape, over time, not just in the short period, over the period of 25 years, you will see that we've done better in Gauteng. If you check the real facts, you'll see that we've done better in Gauteng than the Western Cape. So look, I just think that it's a comparison that is not comparing apples with apples. We're the most populous province. We're more compact. We don't have the natural resources they have. We don't have the sea. So we can't compare the two.
Nazir, just a quick question on the EFF's manifesto, right? Obviously, with the ANC, they've got a 25-year track record in national government. With the DA, you can question them a little bit about the Western Cape and some of the metros that they run now. But the EFF has not been in power in any of the provinces or metros as such. So we look at what the EFF is telling the country it can do and what its policies had. Last week in the studio, we had three top-notch political analysts here looking at the manifestos of the political parties in detail. And Ep40, a well-known analyst, said that if we have to adopt the policies that the EFF is proposing in their manifesto, not only will we go over the fiscal cliff, we will go into a fiscal abyss. And he was saying that there just simply isn't enough money to do what you intend to do. You'd have to rob the World Bank.
Yeah. Look, I suggest you take that from whence it comes, and it comes from Ep40, who I have no regard for as a political analyst. He's an ANC lackey, so, and he can sue me for that if he wants. He has to disprove it. So, no, I think our wishes are very important. You must know South Africa is one of the richest countries in terms of mineral reserves, untapped mineral reserves, but it is owned by foreign companies. London Minerals, or Lonmin, owns the rights to all our platinum in the northwest. So I think what we propose in terms of the nationalization of mines would put a sufficient amount of money in the fiscus and allow us to actually go on a developmental trajectory that has been sorely missing over the past 25 years.
All right. It's time for us to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we continue the discussion with the ANC, DA and EFF. All right, welcome back. We're talking to representatives from the ANC, DA and EFF this week as part of our election coverage. We have Mr. Jeff Makgoba. He is the Joburg Regional Chairperson for the ANC. We've got Ghalib Kachalia, DA MP, Nazir Paulson, EFF MP. Let's talk, Jeff, a little bit about jobs. 2009, the ANC said 6 million jobs, then or 5 million. 2014, it was 6 million. Now it's down to 275,000. What's happening there with those figures?
Well, we spoke of job opportunities then, 10 years ago or so. I think where we have to start is that we need to grow the economy to increase the possibility of our people working. Unemployment is a big problem. I mean, unemployment is a big problem. So we're focusing on jobs, but not only on jobs themselves, we're focusing on the expansion of small businesses, getting more entrepreneurs, getting township economy working, getting rural economy working, so that we have a possibility of getting more and more people employed, or more and more people in employment.
In this 5-year period, 2014 to 2019, you say 6 million job opportunities. How many job opportunities has the ANC been able to create? You set yourself a target of 6 million. How many did
we did not reach our target.
But how far off?
Overall, we are about 4 million job opportunities, both short-term and permanent jobs. There would be short-term jobs, like when there's a construction of a road or something like that, or EPWP work or CWP work. So we did not reach our target of 6 million. But now we're looking, because we're talking about decent jobs, and we have a target now.
What does your research tell you, Ghalib? Did they manage to create 4 million job opportunities in the last 5 years?
No. Look, when I was running for a mayor in Ekurhuleni, over a 7-year period they managed to destroy 700,000 jobs just then in that particular area in which was once known as the workshop of Africa. Now, there are 10 million people unemployed in this country. It is absolutely shocking. You spoke about that letter which Baleka Mbete from the ANC wrote to Helen Zille. It says there, by comparison, that they note that the unemployment rate has dropped to 19.3%, the lowest in South Africa in the Western Cape, with expanded unemployment rate at 14 percentage points lower than the national average. Now that's talking Turkey. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's where government actually says, we have done, and the ruling party says, well done. It's in black and white.
You guys are complimenting the DA for a job well done in the Western Cape, Jeff?
Well, I suppose I wouldn't speak for our former chairperson, Comrade Baleka Mbete, but I suppose where there are pockets of excellence, you have to say there are excellence. However, I mean, I think the issue is, when you look at percentage, if you have 140 people of 1,000 working, And when we have 140 of 1,000 working, or 500 of 1,000 working. So if you look at the real terms of real people employed in the Western Cape and real people employed elsewhere in the country, I think the figures will look a bit skewed because it's a very, very small province and the percentages are misleading.
All right.
Very, very misleading.
Well,
Yes.
I want to comment on that. That was a motion passed by the DA, and unfortunately, the ANC, as you know, they sleep in Parliament, and they never realised, hey, this motion is going through,
Okay.
and you know, and obviously the Speaker is compelled. I don't think the Speaker was even on the chair that day, but it's a motion that slipped through and slipped past the ANC. Really, it did.
So you're saying the facts are not undisputed?
No. I am disputing that. It's
Yeah.
the ANC that were caught napping once again.
So to simplify it for our viewers, basically what happened is the DA came and presented it.
The DA
and
presented
everyone was
it, they
sleeping,
wish
so it
to
got
pass
adopted.
this motion, and then, you know, if nobody objects to it, and obviously
Yeah.
we
So why
must
didn't
have
you
been-
guys object?
Well, I don't think we've been... No. You must know, we've
Yeah.
been busy with an election campaign for a very long time.
Okay.
We about winning an election. So obviously the ANC were caught napping. The DA managed to slip it through. Baleka is compelled to send
But
this...
the EFF also got napping.
No. We were out working. We thought that the ANC could hold the fort, but obviously you can't rely on those old people there. You know, they were probably sleeping or in the bar or somewhere. But
Alright.
you know,
Okay, so the DA, right, in their manifesto, they talk about a job for every home. It's also up on their billboards. The ANC is saying 275,000 jobs. You guys, in your manifesto, are a bit more broad, saying millions of jobs between 2019 2024. Where are your numbers pitched compared to where they're pitching their
we
numbers?
want to eradicate unemployment completely, not just one job per household, which means a household in the Western Cape could have 10 people because, you know, there's a shortage of houses. The DA doesn't build houses. So there could be 10, 15 people in the house relying on one person who's employed. That's ridiculous. The EFF, in terms of jobs, the state, first and foremost, the state outsources all the work to service providers, right? Important things in terms of housing delivery is outsourced to. So the state has no capacity. We say the state will build proper capacity to build homes, capacity to build roads and maintain those roads. We are not going to give away most of the money that the state has to service providers. We are going to employ people directly. So if you want to do work as a service provider, you're going to have to look at the private sector. The state will no longer be a place where service providers can come and tap into taxpayers' money. It will be used for maximum effect. We will provide enough employment. There must be no unemployment. There must be no unemployment in South Africa.
Gharib, you know, there's obviously a lot of detail, and I want to just go beyond jobs now in a broader sense to economy. There's two aspects I want to pick up. If you read the DA's manifesto and you get this impression, and you can correct it if it's wrong, it seems like you want to curb or you want to do away with social grants, and you want to do the same with BEE. You don't seem too comfortable with the extent to which social grants are being granted and the way BEE is working.
No, this is a complete misnomer, and this has been put out there in cheap electioneering. As regards social grants, we are fully in support of social grants. In fact, the record will show that we have advocated an increase in social grants. However, it needs to be properly costed, and it needs an economy that is growing and functioning extremely well in order to pay for that. We, as regards BEE, yes, we say BEE has failed. It is not broad-based, it has failed dismally, it has enriched cronies, it has enriched buddies, it has enriched tenderpreneurs. It has not got down to the ordinary man in the street, black, white, blue or green. We say that needs to be revised. That needs to be revised in the interest of the vast majority of those people in this country so that they can benefit and not the connected.
Jeff, you hear about a job per household from the DA, millions of jobs, total eradication of unemployment. That's what the EFF is saying. Earlier on, Nazir was talking about if you nationalize the mines, there'll be enough money to implement the kind of policies that they want to implement. You've got experience of 25 years. What's realistic? Is it realistic to have a job in every house? Is it realistic to totally eradicate unemployment in the next 5 years?
No, I don't think it's realistic to eradicate unemployment in the next 5 years, but we can reduce unemployment in the next 5 years. Jobs in every house, yes. In fact, there's more. There should be more jobs in every house, because I think Nazir is right, because every household in this, if you go to deep
ANC agreeing with EFF.
if you go to a household, it's not only just one house. You know, there are back rooms, there are backyards. Even I think in Khayelitsha and all that, there are backyards and all that. So when you say a home or a household, what do you mean? So we think that there must be decent jobs for everyone. So therefore, that's why we're saying, for us, it starts with the economy, growing the economy, ensuring that small business thrive, ensuring that cooperatives thrive, ensuring that some of the government work is done by cooperatives in their own locality, in their own areas, so that people can at least have an income. So we think that we need to massify access to employment and access to jobs, access to work as well, as long as they are decent jobs. As it regards to the transformation of the economy and nationalization and all that, we think that we need to transform the economy. The economy must be transferred, reindustrialized, and of course, ownership patterns must change.
You're not agreeing, Ghalib?
You know, yes, he's absolutely right. We need to grow this economy. But what is the ANC's real proposals in this regard? I made a few notes here. I said it will focus on prescribed assets, investing your pension funds in SOEs, which are on the verge of bankruptcy. Now that the state's been looted, they're coming after your pension funds. They want to create more state-owned entity banks that are reliant on, that come out of the state-owned entities. Where is that going to go? They want to create 100 black industrialists. Please, we want to create 1 million entrepreneurs. And you know, if all those things don't constitute a nail in the coffin of the economy, then there's the question of administrative prices. Never mind expropriation without compensation and the nationalization of the Reserve Bank or the mines. I don't even want to talk about the EFF's policies, because that's just the ANC on steroids.
Nazir, let's talk about land, right? In essence, you're talking about nationalization of mines. You're talking about all land belonging to the state. Others say that is just another way of saying, you know, nationalization of all of the land. The concern that has come forth from some quarters is that look at whatever's in the control of the state currently, and the mess it is in. The SOEs is one example, your ESCOM and SA and everything else. If the ANC wins this next election, you want to give them control over all the land. Many have been criticizing government that the land government currently owns, they haven't adequately utilized that to redress the issue of land in South Africa. So putting all the land in the control of the government, is that not risky?
Moulana, you know, you can't compare the ANC to the EFF. The ANC is a 25-year-old liberation movement. They've never managed to build a capable government. The EFF will go and have a capable government come the 8th of May 2019. And the way the land will be managed would be very different from the way the ANC has done anything. I mean, it all comes down to leadership. Our leader will never be shocked at what he sees. He will know even before we know, and we'll have to go and fix it before it becomes anyone else's knowledge. So in terms of the way that the land, it's not really an issue. I mean, the problem today is, and Khalib says that they want to have millions of entrepreneurs. Jeff also says it, that they want 100 black industrialists, and we need to ask ourselves, you know, when it comes to businesses, you need land, you need space, and this is one of the problems. Most startups who want to start businesses, they have to pay rental, they have to go and apply for land. Anyone who wants to farm has to go and buy land. So why must the state not support those people who want to be industrialists, who want to be farmers? And that land comes at a premium, so the state would issue land for the particular use
at the time of elections, right? Every party says that we're going to win the elections. A couple of weeks ago, I had the ACP, or one of these smaller parties, even they said they're going to win. One scenario is the EFF wins the elections, Julius Malema becomes the president, and you implement your policies in an ideal way. Another scenario is that the ANC wins the elections, or the DA wins the elections. Will you still be pushing for the land to be nationalized, so to speak, and handing it all into their control, considering their track record in terms of how they've handled what's already in their control?
You know, Moulana, the DA has implemented a EFF policy in Tshwane, insourcing 3,000 security workers. They've also implemented an EFF policy in Johannesburg when it comes to insourcing. The important thing is that the EFF will In fact, we are 6-point-something party in Parliament. The ANC has adopted an EFF policy for land expropriation without compensation.
Do you trust the ANC and the DA with all the land?
We will make sure that it's done properly.
Okay.
We will make sure that it's
Lastly,
done properly.
on the perspective, on the issue of land, right, there's a lot of ambiguity. When the EFF talks about expropriation of land without compensation, many people are not understanding what land. Are you asking for every inch of land in South Africa to belong to the state, or only vacant land, unutilized land?
No. It's all land.
So what happens to those who own houses, own properties? They'll cease to own.
Exactly, that's it. It's all land. Whatever improvements that are on there belongs to the person occupying that land.
So they'll be leasing it from the state?
The land belongs to the state. It will always belong to the state.
How different is the ANC's policy on land from the EFF? There is an accusation against the ANC that the EFF was gaining quite a bit of traction. It became almost like their rallying call, expropriation of land without compensation, and you guys tried to take the wind out of their sails and come up with a similar kind of policy, especially in the Ramaphosa era in the last 12 months. What's the key differences between what you're saying on land and they saying on land?
No, we wouldn't contrast ourselves to the EFF. We've been talking about the land issue when Julius was still in the Youth League and the ANC. In the 2010 NGC,
he says he brought it up in the Youth League.
Well, when 2010 NGC, we had a big argument about nationalization when we were still president of the Youth League in Devon. So all it did was just to copy what we were talking about in the ANC and transplanted it into the EFF. There's nothing that's new. But
are you also calling for the nationalization of land?
No. We're not saying that the land must belong to the state. We're saying that we've tried the willing buyer, willing seller process. It's not worked. We've tried the land restitution process for a long time. Prices were inflated of farms and all that. Where necessary, the land must be expropriated without compensation, but it must not affect. That's why in our own Congress, the resolution said we agree with the land expropriation without compensation. However, it must not affect the economy. It must not affect food security.
Those things are fine, but they're very broad. We will expropriate land without compensation. However, it mustn't affect this, it mustn't affect that. But what are the parameters? What are the specifics?
So it means that you look at it case by case. You don't just have a blanket. You don't have a blanket.
And that case by case would take forever.
No. It won't take forever because we know. We know the farms that have been overpriced. We know.
So Ghalib, you know the EFF and the ANC's version on land. What does the DA say?
We have a constitution. Within the framework of that hard fought for constitution, which we honor, there are measures where you can expropriate where necessary under certain circumstances and where you can deal with all these issues in a rational and responsible way that doesn't destroy food security and the economy. You know, the land that was moved through restitution and redress in the current scenario amounted to about 15 billion hectares. There was another 4 billion hectares which were transferred from white ownership to black ownership, if you like, through sales. 19 billion hectares, that's a hell of a lot of hectares. That amounts to about 21% of the land of the rural land in this country. The target was 30%. It's pretty close to the target. Let me put another factor in there. That's under the existing circumstances, not this mad expropriation. Let me put another factor in there. There is 140 billion rands worth of debt sitting in those farming lands. They want to expropriate the land.
The EFF has a point in that 80% of the population are only using 10% of the land. And that we've been hiding behind the constitution.
I've given you the figures. The own targets of the ANC, the 6% is not good.
So you're saying nothing wrong with the constitution, the problem is with the implementation.
So let's understand. I'll talk to the ANC. The ANC their target was 30%. They said if we hit 30%, we would have achieved in the interim what we intended to do. It's sitting in the interim at 21%. That's massive. That's huge improvement. It can be done. It will be done. Debt, as I said, is extremely high. Those farms don't exist by themselves. One quick point. The land only constitutes 10% of the value. The equipment on it, the assets on it are 90%. Where are you going to go with that? Who's leveraged that?
Obviously, each of these issues, right, economy, land, I mean, we need hours to discuss it properly, to do justice to it. The program's short, so I'm going to have to move on. I want to talk a little bit about SOEs, and Jeff, I want to start with you. The ANC has been saying, yes, now we've established these commissions of inquiry to look into what went wrong. In the last year, under Ramaphosa, we've been trying to fix these things. But surely, you should be willing as an ANC to concede that the mess that the SOEs are in, particularly ESCOM and SAA, the buck should primarily stop with the ANC. The ANC should take the bulk of the blame because it happened under your watch, no?
The ANC government admits to the problems that are happening in some of the SOEs.
No, we all know the problems.
No, I'm just saying we admit to the
problems.
problems. We admit to the problems that have happened under our watch. But if you look at ESCOM and its performance over time, okay, I had the pleasure of working there in 1997. And at that time, where there was excess capacity, but access to electricity was about 20% or so of the population. Intensive electrification happened. Now, where did the mistake happen? First was not to increase the generation capacity when the signs were there in the early 2000s. Okay, so that's why the first round of load shedding. Now the last 5 years that are coming out now in the commissions, of course, we have to say things went wrong. Things went wrong in these SOEs, and they must be corrected. But ESCOM electrified masses and masses of our people throughout the length and breadth of our country. In the northwest, where my granny comes from, they were using candles. In fact, in Soweto itself, they were using candles. Electrification has been
Nazir, when we
intensified.
talk about ESCOM in particular, obviously SOEs is a much broader topic, but ESCOM is the hot point at the moment because of load shedding. The ANC says, okay, we've achieved in that so many more people have electricity as compared to before. But on the other hand, Kusile, Madubi and the list, and we all know it, when you compare what has been achieved and you compare what has gone wrong with the SOEs under ANC rule, how do you as the EFF analyze it?
Well, we know that one of the problems with SOEs, and especially ESCOM, is corruption. Executives employed by ESCOM who also do business with ESCOM, coal supply and that sort of thing. So that is a serious problem. There's a couple of people that belong in jail at ESCOM right now. And once we can sort out the rot in ESCOM, we'll be able to start stabilizing ESCOM as well. In addition, I mean, can you imagine a boiler that's not properly welded because the welders are contracted to ESCOM, and the owner of the welding consultancy or company is an executive of ESCOM. It's going to be problems. And that's one of the problems in ESCOM. That's a problem in many of the state-owned entities, and one of the things that we should be rooting out.
Do you agree with what the president proposed in SONA about the unbundling of ESCOM, as they call it?
No, not at all.
Why?
I don't agree. The problem is it's going to push up the cost of electricity. There's no way that you can say that the state cannot effectively run an entity like ESCOM. The state only has to get the proper capacity. And this is what the EFF is all about. It's about employing people with capacity. The problem with the ANC and the state-owned entities, it's run by cronies. So it's doomed to failure.
Khalib, do you guys also disagree with the ANC on the unbundling and agree with the EFF in this regard?
No. I think the ANC actually took our policy on this. We've been saying it for a very long time. We said split it into generation and distribution. Generation can be within the state hands because there's an argument in terms of it being a strategic asset and the like. We understand that. Distribution is another story. Get the private sector involved in distribution. Allow IPPs, independent power producers, to sell to the grid, to municipalities and to the central grid. That's the way forward. The uptime of electric power plants has declined to 70%. That's a 30% gap. That's what we're facing right now. SOEs in general owe what? 490 billion. We owe, as a country, 80%. We owe 80% of our GDP in debt. These are problems which corruption, mismanagement, lack of maintenance, and I could go on listing
talking about
that
corruption,
the ANC has brought us.
Jeff, talking about corruption, I've seen ANC responses of late. Yes, we know corruption is a problem. That's why we've started this commission of inquiries. That's why we've put in a special unit within the National Prosecuting Authority. But many are saying that, look, that's being somewhat disingenuous, because if you look at the scale of the corruption scandals, almost everyone in your top six is implicated. I won't say necessarily guilty, but implicated in some scandal or the other. There's this whole issue of the people on the list that are implicated in corruption-related scandals. Fair enough, the ANC says they haven't been convicted, but others say you can't have the bar so low that only if someone is criminally convicted, they don't come onto your list. Be that as it may, surely the ANC has got to concede that corruption has become entrenched, it's become rooted, it's become endemic under ANC rule within the party, at municipality levels, at grassroots levels. It's a much bigger problem than just having a state commission of inquiry. We've had a Fowler commission of inquiry. It brings to the fore certain things, but no one is in jail. Zuma, as accused as he is, still comes to ANC rallies. He hasn't been disciplined within the party. Are you really serious about corruption?
The ANC is serious about rooting out corruption. The ANC
Where's the evidence of that?
The ANC is serious about ethical and honest government. That's why it's in our manifesto. If things have gone wrong and we say we need to correct them. And you're right that it's not only just in the SOEs, we just need to change the nature of society. A traffic cop there, a JMPD would ask for 5 rand tip not to give you a ticket. Somebody who needs a bribe to get an ID. So that whole societal problem needs to be rooted out. Things have to be changed. So, but I just wanted to say that you know sometimes we speak as debt, not looking at the expansion of services that are related to that debt. It looks like the whole debt was consumed. I mean, the way Khalid speaks about we are indebted, it's like a state must play a role in the development of its people. And if there's not enough money, you must go borrow money so that people can be developed. A state must play a role, and there's a role for the state. Now, I think it's ideological that everything must be private sector.
I just want to come back quickly, Jeff, to the issue of corruption, right? At a town hall debate earlier this week, the EFF representative, when I was asked about VBS, he said, well, there are more ANC people implicated in VBS than there are EFF people. The DA kind of projects itself that, hey, look, the Malema and Company, On Point Consulting, Public Protector's report, they got questions to answer. The ANC has got many questions to answer. When it comes to corruption, there's very little that has been thrown at the DA. What would your response be to that?
Well, I suppose because they're of the negative campaigning. That's how they campaign. They don't campaign positively. They don't tell us what they do.
But none of their senior leaders are embroiled in any corruption-related scandal.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. That's significant. Not yet.
Yeah. There are no EFF people involved in VBS, but there is a nice tourism where the DA is running a racket there at the moment, and they've gagged the author of the book that is exposed it. So they've got a court order where he may not publish the book and he may not do interviews, or he could go to jail. So one has to ask, why are they doing this if there's nothing to hide? Nice tourism. It's a DA stockpile in the Western
We
Cape.
just have about 3 minutes, and I want to discuss race, and then I want to give you guys some time to conclude. A lot has been said by Malema, a lot has been said in the last few years. In essence, Nazir, does the EFF believe that the majority of Indians, coloureds and whites are racist?
Many of them are.
The majority?
Let us be realistic. I come from the Western Cape. I live amongst so-called coloured. They are very racist. Indians too, and in the sense that they do not value African lives or the lives of African people as they do their fellow brothers. They're even racist among themselves. So
can blacks be racist?
How? You don't have the economic power to be racist. And
Black middle class is emerging. Mm-hmm. Can they be racist towards poor whites or poor Indians? I'm asking.
Probably yes, but I don't think it's African
Khalid,
people.
your
African people do not have a racist nature. I mean, I come from the northwest. You'd think, I'm deployed to the northwest. I just come from there now. You'd never say I come from the Western Cape. I'm accepted as one of them.
All right. Yes, Khalid.
Moulana, we come from a society that is riven on the fissures of race. It would be unreasonable to expect us not to be a country that's grappling with racial issues. The point is that these racial tendencies and these racial ideas racist ideas rather, sit with everybody in some measure, and with a lot of people in no measure.
Do you believe the majority of Indians, coloureds and whites are racist?
Absolutely not, any more than I believe that anybody in this country is fundamentally racist.
What do you say, Jeff, on the same question?
I'm steeped in non-racialism.
Yes.
Myself. I believe in a non-racial society. So I look at you as a South African of Indian descent. Mm. Now there are people with prejudices, and especially racial prejudices, they are there. Our job as politicians in trying to build a non-racial society is to go and deal with the with the prejudices they have and try and help them to end racialism. There are those people who are still holding on to prejudices, but I don't believe myself that most whites, most Indians are racist. I don't believe
we
that.
have 2 minutes to conclude. A quick parting word from you on behalf of the ANC.
On behalf of the ANC, in 3 weeks' time, on the 8th of May, we think that our people have heard our story. We have a plan. We admit to our mistakes. We are hanging our linen for everyone to see, to hear, and we'll correct it. However, on the substantive issues of social transformation, of economic transformation, of building a united, democratic, non-sexist, non-racial, and prosperous South Africa, we are on course. The people must give us a decided mandate for President Ramaphosa to...
We're in dire straits in this country, absolutely dire straits. Moody's, the various rating agencies, the World Bank, you name it, will tell you this. You don't have to ask me. Take it from the horse's mouth. We have to come up with something fundamentally different. This is an economy which can be put right. It can't be put right if we continue looting. It can't be put right if you have policies which hamstring foreign direct investment and savings and the opening up of businesses and entrepreneurs in this country. Those things need to be addressed. As I keep harping back, and people say it's a small province, but it is a province which that letter shows, and I could read more of it if I want to, shows where we have achieved and what we have achieved. That has got to be replicated. It has to be replicated across the board in our country, proudly and properly, so that everybody is put to work in the long term, dignity is restored, and the non-racialism that Jeff spoke about is honored.
Nazir?
Thank you very much. On the 8th of May, South Africans for the first time, or the second time, get an opportunity to vote for a party that will undo the suffering of black people since 1652. 25 years of democracy has meant very little for the majority of blacks and Africans, coloureds and Indians in this country. And we as the EFF, for the first time, are willing to unlock the huge potential of this country for the benefit of all its people. So if we look at our policies of nationalization, our policies of land expropriation, nationalization, and the accompanying local beneficiation and industrialization would provide opportunities for more South Africans. We could completely eradicate unemployment, unlike any of the other political parties that have no intention of completely eradicating unemployment. Some of them want 1 job per household, the other one says maybe 2 jobs per household. We're saying, why must some people suffer when other people in my household have a job, which means I have a job, everyone else in my household will be unemployed and depending on me. Can you think of anything more foolish than 1 job per household? I mean, I don't know. What are they smoking? You know, we've legalized cannabis now. Now these people are coming up with these funny ideas. A job for every South African, our jobs and our land now.
All right. Gentlemen, I just wish we had so much more time because there's so much more to unpack and I would have loved to have engaged you further. But in the time that we had, I think we covered quite a bit of ground. Thank you so much for your time this evening and for the robust but respectful interaction and engagement. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Viewers, we take our final break. When we come back, we have one quick interview with Moulana Mokwena about the upcoming South African Black Muslims Conference before we wrap up the program for this evening. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. So we are into extra time. It's a very important event that's taking place that we wanted to discuss in the few minutes that we have left on the program. And joining me in studio from the Gauteng Muslim Shura Council, we have Moulana Mokwena and Moulana Abdul Salam Mutawung. To both of you, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Moulana.
Firstly, for those who may not know, Gauteng Muslim Shura Council, tell us a little more.
Gauteng Muslim Shura Council is basically an organization that has been set up to look after the needs of the black Muslim community, that means specifically Muslims who live in the townships. This means across all ranges, that is economic, social, whatever needs are appropriate for the community is being set up particularly for that. So we have been in existence, I think, since 2013?
2013, yes.
2013. And in this process, we've been trying to look after the needs of the Muslim community in the townships to try and make sure that our people take greater responsibility for the faith, we become more accountable for the faith, and we start to regard ourselves as genuine Muslim members of the Muslim community. That's what Gauteng Muslim Shura was formed from.
Now, this event that's taking place next weekend, if I'm correct, the South African Black Muslim Conference. Tell us about what gave rise to this idea.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that He will not change the condition of a people unless they change their own condition. We as Black Muslims of South Africa, we've been lamenting being on the outdoors, not being in the main field of being in charge of Islam. And as such, we find ourselves expecting things to be done for us by others besides ourselves. It's like we have dropped the standard, because before, most of us, we were Christians, and when we were Christians, we could build churches of the people who used to previously oppress us. Yet we get the freedom of Islam, such a beauty, and then we hand over the responsibility of growing Islam to the next stage. So the South African Black Muslim Conference, it aims at making sure that we change our own condition, and then we will be tackling such issues like that which our brother Abdul Salam Mutawing has mentioned, whether be it social, educational, health-wise, and the likes, inshallah.
Is this the first conference of this nature?
Yes, it is the first conference, and hopefully we're hoping to have many more after this. But just to add what Brother Vuyo has mentioned, when you do just a cursory study of the Black Muslim community, you'll find that the Muslim community has been in existence, receiving dawah for at least 60 years now, all right? And maybe probably by estimates, we are 60,000. Now, if you look at this period, the question you need to ask yourself, this community, what have we produced? Do we have a single masjid that we have built? Do we have a single institution that we have established in these 60 years? So the conference is about introspection, to say exactly how do we add value, and we need to consider the next generations. Yes. The majority of us are first generation Muslims, and we are having children currently. What infrastructure, what are we building for them? Or are we creating a culture of dependency which will harm them as well? So this is what the conference is about. It's a time for introspection, it's a time for reflection, it's a time for us to look at our history and say, what have we done for Islam? Other than complain, other than deflect, what are we going to do to change the state of Islam in this country? It is not against anybody, or it's only the starting point to say, we are realizing now, some of us have been Muslims for 15 years, 20 years, what have we done for Islam? What has changed? Because the primary reason, one of the reasons that the Gauteng Shura was formed is that we need to raise dawah to a different level. Many of our people are having family members who still have the preconceived notion or perception that Islam belongs to another racial group. We are unable to break that, particularly because we ourselves are not in a position economically or socially to show them, to give them the standard that you can follow us. We need to therefore set the ground to say, we are the leaders that you must follow because we are leading in Islam. That is precisely the reason for the conference.
So this conference taking place next weekend, take us through the itinerary. What kind of discussions will you be having? Who will be the speakers, the keynote speakers?
We have keynote speakers from also elderly leading Black Muslim personalities, like your Professor Tahir Sitoto, who is the professor at the University of KZN. We have brothers like Ismail Kamani. Also, we have Dr. Ngubani as well, Professor Dr. Ngubani. And the subject that we'll be focusing on in that conference, we must also acknowledge one thing, that we cannot use those 3 days of the conference to solve and discuss everything. So what we have tried to fit into the itinerary of the day is to tackle for example, the status of a Black Muslim community in relation to the global Muslim, the status or the condition or the development of a Black Muslim woman, and then also to focus on youth matters, also as such to focus on marital and family structures as well. Okay. So these are some of the things we'll be touching on, inshallah.
Finally, Brother Abdul Salam, the details, where, when, who do you want to attend this particular conference?
I think this conference is basically open to everybody who would like to attend the conference, who is interested in the development of Islam in the community. So the details are getting a bit hazy to me in my mind, but in terms of
19
is in the Easter weekend.
Yeah, next weekend.
Next weekend, and you can.
On the Easter weekend, on the Friday, we're having a gala dinner at Cape Town Hotel.
Okay.
And then on the Saturday and the Sunday, then the venue will be at the Soweto Theatre in Soweto. That is on the 18th, on the 20th and the 21st. And then as well, the other point that I would like to add on is that, you know, our focus as well is to make sure that at least the people have something to take home with. And answering the question of who do we expect to attend, you know, I would like to put it like this. I'm a graduate of Darul Uloom Newcastle. In Newcastle, it is predominantly an Indian community. Some of those Indian families, they are my close friends. They are children, those uncles in that community. So if I were to say I'm going to go into a conference whereby I don't want those people who know me to come there, then that will mean that I'm breaking even the fiber of the Muslim unity. So I would know as well that there is someone who doesn't identify themselves as black, but yet they identify as a Muslim who wants to partake in the development of Islam, who wants to shape Islam, and they would be like to be present in the conference as well. They have good intention. They also wanted to see progress within the Muslim community at large. So also those, they are welcome to attend the conference itself.
Moulana Mukena and Abdul Salam Mutawang, thank you both for your time. Time was short this evening, but hopefully after the conference we can sit some time and we can unpack some of the issues and some of the discussions at the conference in greater detail, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To the viewers, until next week, inshallah, fi amanillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وامنح الناس حبك بيض الله قلبك بيض الله قلبك جميل المساعي وامنح الناس حبك بيض الله قلبك بيض الله قلبك كن سموحا لخصمك تلقى خصمك أحبك